Hi, I'm Aaron Marcus, and welcome back to the Acting and Modeling Success Summit. We have Gail Nemec, and Gail is an award-winning actor and producer. As a matter of fact, she has a show, The Bee and the Bug. It's a new interactive show dealing with American history, which is going to be really cool. She's also a children's and spiritual book author and illustrator. And Gail's been working as an actor since 1998, and she also offers classes about background acting. So, Gail, welcome to the summit.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here, Aaron.
Good. Well, I think the first thing we should be doing is letting people know exactly what does it mean to be a background actor or an extra.
It means someone, an actor, who enhances a scene. Take, for example, any scene that you can think of that would be in a TV show or in a film, and imagine that scene with two stars or two main characters acting, and then imagine it with other people in the background. Those other people are extras. Those people enhance the scene, bring a vision to the scene, and let the viewer, you, know what that scene is all about, which helps the director create his vision as well.
So, like for instance, if two people are, sitting in a restaurant,
Mhm.
chances are you're going to have a lot of other extras sitting in chairs, and that helps create the ambiance and it makes it look real, unless it's supposed to be a dead restaurant, but
Right.
but for the most part. And so I guess for those kinds of settings, what the casting director is going to need to do is find actors who can really look like they belong in that type of establishment.
That's true. That's true. And that's a very funny statement, but it's actually absolutely true. Find actors who look like they belong in that type of establishment. That is absolutely right.
And then I know like one of the tricky things is, and just using that as an example, if you are working as an extra and you're in a restaurant, well, you probably will have, a waiter or a waitress bring food. You might have food at the table, but most likely you're going to be told, please do not eat any of the food. Don't drink, because first of all, the food might not be real, in which
Right.
case it's not going to taste very good. And then they're also very worried that if you're sitting down and eating a meal and they're shooting this scene over and over and over and over again, well, you started off with a whole, plate of steak, and now there's like one bite left and something doesn't, seem quite right. So you have to be very conscious of that as well.
And then take that back. If you're being served by a waiter in a restaurant, most likely the waiters are also extras. They're all background extras too. So it's not just the patrons in the restaurant, it's also those people who are serving the wine, serving the water, serving the food, and taking that not eating the food one step further. If you're on a set, for example, and shooting the same scene for 4 to 6 hours, that food is going to get pretty rancid after 4 to 6 hours. So taking a bite of it, wouldn't recommend that at all. Yeah, no.
And then also, I guess one of the things that's kind of tricky is that, here you're supposed to be in a restaurant, and let's say you're, supposed to be out on a date and you're with somebody else and you're sitting at the table. Well, you're supposed to be talking. I mean, it would be kind of weird to, have a date with somebody and just stare at them for 4 hours. So what do you find that people actually are asked to do in those settings?
Make no sound whatsoever. The biggest mistake that I find, and one of the big things that I teach in my class, is that um, when two people are on camera and they're supposed to be talking, they always talk at the same time. That's not natural in conversation. For example, I am talking right now, and you, Aaron, are
And
not
talking. Oh,
talking. No, stop.
I thought you were prodding me to
No,
say,
no,
let me
no, no.
finish the
You are
sentence.
listening. Listen to me. You are listening. And what happens many times with background actors, and let's just talk simultaneously. You move your mouth, I'll move mine. We're talking at the same time, and on camera, that doesn't work. That's exactly right. Because we don't talk that way. One person talks, one person listens. One person talks. And yet, when you're on a set, you cannot make any noise whatsoever when you're talking. So you're pantomiming and you're doing it very quietly. Very important. Very
And
important.
so, for some of the basic rules that actors should know about if they're doing some extra work, especially for people who maybe have never experienced it. I mean, well, I guess starting from the very beginning is you have to be there on time. I mean, that's true
Oh
for
gosh.
anything, but especially for extras because they're expecting a certain amount of people to show up at a certain time so they can start shooting the scene. And if people aren't there, then they can't shoot. And there's a lot of money being spent just sitting around waiting for people to show up. So I'm assuming that showing up on time and being prepared is certainly the very first step.
And actually, it's not showing up on time, it's showing up ahead of time. Because if you're supposed to be on a set, for example, at 7 a.m. in the morning, you should be there at the wherever you're supposed to be parking at quarter till 7 or 20 till 7 or whatever to give yourself time to park your car and walk to where you're actually supposed to be checking in at 7 o'clock. Your arrival at the parking lot at 7 o'clock, you're late. You're late. So arriving on time is absolutely right for all the reasons that you've already mentioned.
And kind of, here we're kind of moving backwards a little bit, but
Yeah.
I just thought about this. The night before you're going to be working as an extra, you will have gotten a list of things that you need to bring to the set.
Hmm.
And I saw this happen one time, and I'm sure you must have a million stories of mishaps on sets, but there was an actor, and it was a very early call, and I'm assuming the actor probably got up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, threw all the stuff in, his bag, showed up on the set and realized that he brought two left shoes.
Ah,
He was just pulling stuff out of the closet. I mean, they were kind of similar, but it made it, really complicated, and they had to go out and find shoes for the guy. So one of the lessons that taught me very early on is make sure you've got a list of everything you need to bring. I would pack the night before if you can, check things off on the sheet of paper to make sure
that's
that
right.
you've got everything. Because, look, and I know sometimes we feel like we're just extras, but we're important. And the way that I view the times when I've done extra work, and I still will do extra work if I am available, is I want to treat this as if I were a principal. And I will work very hard if they need a certain expression or emotion in the scene. I'm going to give it. And I'm not going to just think, well, I'm just an extra. Who cares? Well, I care as a professional, and I also want to make the project look good as well.
And let's take that one step further, Aaron. You care as a professional, number one. You want it to look good, number two. But you also are practicing your acting craft in general when you do background work. Because when you're doing background work, you're expected to do the same thing with the same emotion and the same feeling over and over and over again. And I was on a set not too long ago, won't mention the name of the show because it's like really well known. We did 41 takes of the same thing. 41 takes, which meant every extra had to do the identical thing every single time so that wherever the camera was shooting, they would pick up the background people doing the same thing so that they could edit it together. And I know that's getting very complicated and technical for people who are maybe new in the business, but it's imperative. Take that step further. Those 41 takes gave every person in that room who was doing background work the opportunity to practice their craft at doing the same thing identically over and over and over again for 41 times.
Well, there's a term that's used on the set, and maybe you could explain it to everybody. When you finish doing the scene and either the first assistant director or the director says cut, back to one, would you explain what that means so that way when people experience it, they know exactly what to do?
Yeah, back to one simply means go back to exactly where you started. That's what that means. So you need to know exactly where you start. That's very important. They also say on some sets first position, but that means go right back to where you were when they started that scene. That's what that means, back to one.
Yeah, and you also want to know exactly where you end,
Hmm.
and whether you're walking right by somebody, whether the spacing was a shoulder length away from someone, because basically what you want to do is make things very easy for the editor to match everything up. So you want to do it exactly the same way unless you're told otherwise.
Well, and what you're saying too is a way is that you get your mark, you hit your mark. So, for example, if I was being shot right now as an extra, and let's just say there were two main characters in front of me, I would look at everything around me to see exactly where I was standing, exactly where my first position was, my number one position was. When we finished this scene and they said go back to one, I would say, okay, I'm in a chair. There's another chair that's a foot and a half away from me. There's a glass that's 3 feet away from me. I'm 4 feet from a table, what have you. That's exactly where I need to be standing. In some instances where we've been in enormous rooms with hundreds of people, I have literally looked up at the ceiling, counted the lights on the ceiling. True story, many times. They count from in front of me and from the sides and the tiles to know where I am supposed to be.
Well, you're dedicated, and
Yeah,
you're, and you care,
I do.
about that. Now, when people first arrive,
Hmm.
how do people get paid? Is there some paperwork that people have to fill out?
There's something called a voucher. Everyone is given a voucher at the beginning of the day, and the voucher has your name, your social, if you're in the union, your union number, your address, your citizenship, and your ID. And you fill out this information. There's a start time and an end time on that voucher. You keep that voucher with you all day long. At the end of the day, you sign out. Production assistants put your sign out time, and then they initial it and how many hours you worked, and that's how you're paid. Then that goes to a paymaster. Then they send you a check.
Yeah, I was just going to add, the only time you would not hold on to your voucher all day
Hmm.
is if you
Hmm.
have to borrow some wardrobe from the wardrobe people on the set, and basically what they'll say is, "Hey, give me your voucher. I'll
Hmm.
give you a shirt. I'll give you pants. I'll give you a right shoe." And that way, it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to bring things back. Um,
Right,
and
because it's the
and
only
and
way you could. Yeah, sorry.
No, and I was just also going to say, it's really important too, because sometimes the extras are given props. So, like for instance, if you are playing a reporter, well, they might give you a notepad, they might give you a pen, they could give you, many different things, and or
Camera,
maybe a camera. And
a
by the
camera.
way, on,
Yeah,
on a little bit of a side note,
yeah.
just if you have a choice, if there's a scene and they do need media people, if you can, see if you can be the reporter, because then you only have to carry a pencil, a pen, a little pad. You don't have a huge camera on your shoulder. That gets heavy very quickly. You're going to be
It
lugging that
does.
thing around all day long. So I always volunteer, hey, do you need a reporter for this thing? Um, but please just make sure that you do return it, because sometimes people have not so much the cameras, but for some of the smaller items, and people think, hey, I want to, keep a little namesake from this project and stuff. But, what really happens is it leaves a bad impression
Oh
on the
yeah.
production company. Ah, the actors in this town, they're stealing stuff from us. They're not being, real professional about it. And, you always want people to return to your city to continue to shoot. And
Hmm.
one of the ways to do that is to, just act in a really professional manner.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Everything you're saying, ditto.
So how do people even find out about extra work in the area?
In our particular, it's different for every single community throughout the United States, but in our particular area, we have several casting directors. And please, there's no such thing as a casting agent. It does not exist. It is a casting director or a talent agent. It is not the same thing. Casting directors many times will send out notices via email. We also have listservs, local listservs. We also have uh, Actor Center, different places where we can go, and these emails will come out that say XYZ film, XYZ television series is here. We need extras for, or we need background work for this. Please send in your headshot via email or and hard copy if you are available. One thing that I've been told, and I just want to say this very quickly, the class that I teach is based on interviews that I have had and continue to have with casting directors, producers, ADs, you name it. I mean, that's how I did this whole class. It's not, hello, Gail Nemec is brilliant. No, I asked the questions, and that's where I got the answers. But many times a casting director will send out something that says, we're looking for women 18 to 25. And what they have told me is that many women who are 60, 70, 45 send in their shots, which is a waste. It's a waste of time for everybody. So if it's saying 18 to 25, they mean 18 to 25. Men do the same thing. There's a lot of men who do that too. It says men, 18 to 25 or 18 to 30, and men will send in a headshot and they're 40s, 50s, 60s, or it says well-built, sculpted, military, and someone who's overweight who may be perfect for a John Goodman type thing. It's not what they're looking for, so don't send it in unless you fit what the description calls for.
Yeah, those are really good points. The other thing too is people can try going to their film commission if they have one in their
Absolutely.
particular area, because they might, list different types of projects that are coming in, and maybe even, going to your local college or university. There might be a film class, and students have to shoot films, and they might need principal actors. They also might need extras, and it's just it's a good way to get some experience. Now, something else when you're just talking about being on the set, and I wouldn't do it for this reason, but I mean, I personally have had this happen to me, and I've seen it happen with many other people, where sometimes extras will get upgraded, where
Mm-hmm.
you go in there and you're working as an extra, and for a variety of reasons, either the assistant director or the director, or it could be a producer, walks over and says, look, I need you to say these words, for a variety of reasons, and all of a sudden you go from being an extra to now you're a principal actor in this project.
Mm-hmm. That's true. It doesn't happen very often, but it definitely does happen. And there's a couple of well-known actors, actors slash producers who like to give upgrades to people on their sets. I think we had a film here not too long ago, and there were 35 or 40 upgrades. I can't remember, but yes, that does happen. It does not happen all the time, and it's very rare. So if you're walking on the set and you're expecting to be upgraded or get lines, yeah, don't. I mean, it may
Right.
happen. One never knows, but you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not trying to give people the impression that it does happen all the time, and I also believe that it happens much less on a TV show
Hmm.
than in a feature film.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing is too, when you're doing, and look, there are some actors that refuse to do extra work, and I completely understand that, and that's fine. Some of the other benefits though that I find with doing extra work, or agreeing to do extra work, is that it allows you to watch the process
Oh,
of
yes.
how a TV show is made, how a film
Yes.
is put together. Maybe you
Yes.
could just talk about some of the things that you've learned from being on a set.
No, it's very exciting, and I'm also a producer. So it's very exciting because when you're on a set, I mean, some of the things you've learned, I mean, it's like the crew. Watching the crew is like watching one of the greatest ballets in the world. It's like better than Swan Lake because the crew knows exactly who needs to do what to make what happen at what particular time. And it's fascinating to watch them because it's almost like they have this mental ESP wavelength going between all of them and they know what to do. Looking at the lighting, how the lighting is set up, where it is, looking at the dolly tracks, which are train tracks in essence is what they are, where they're putting a camera on a track and they're moving that camera so they can get these fabulous shots. There's so many things to watch, and it's I think the other thing is so fascinating. And I won't mention the films at this particular time, but my gosh, I've got a bazillion stories, as you can imagine. One particular show, we were shooting a ballroom scene, and what fascinated me with this ballroom scene is they wanted to shoot everybody going into the ballroom scene first. So we shot an entire night with people walking upstairs to go into the ballroom scene. That was it. And watching where they placed the cameras, which is one thing I always love to watch, was very exciting. The other thing, too, is that if you ever notice that generally at night, whenever they shoot streets, the roads are wet. So it's watching how they wet those roads to make the roads look wet so they can drive the car up, so they can move a camera from up here to back here to over there, which again is why it's so imperative that you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Anyway, that entire shot, which I learned so much from, which we shot probably 3 or 4 hours, I don't think it was in the film for more than 5 seconds. And that's not unusual. It's like, bang, very fast. But yeah, there's a lot you can learn just by observing and watching. And there's a lot of people who are actors who work, and they want to become filmmakers. They want to do it, which is great. And if it's a fantastic education, as you just now mentioned, Aaron, to be on a set and to watch it and think, when I'm a filmmaker, I think, and I can see, and look where they did this, and see how that was. And it's fabulous because the education is just enormous.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just watching how directors talk to the actors, networking with other people. Hey, Gail, I'm going to have to wind this up because there are some questions that have come in. So let me get to the questions real quickly here.
Sure.
This is from Todd in Oklahoma, and Todd wants to know, can doing extra work hurt his chances for getting principal work?
Not to my knowledge. I think it depends on the market and depends on where you're doing it. There are some markets where extras are only extras and that's all they do, and they show up every day and they're extras, but there's other markets like our market, which is fantastic, which cannot hurt you at all because we all do everything in this market.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, for instance, in LA, if you are trying to be a principal actor and you're doing a bunch of extra work, then you're going to be viewed as an extra.
Right,
and there are, like you were mentioning, there are people in New York, I mean, you can work literally every day as an extra if you want to. So I think what would be also really helpful is talk to your agent and, you know, ask your agent. But there are plenty of markets, whether it's the Northeast or could be the Southeast as well, where, you know, basically people can be doing extra work one day and being a principal in a project the next day. But, you know, like
That's
we were
exactly
saying,
right.
it really can be a great experience. We also have a question from Hank, speaking of Florida. How many hours do extras generally work per day?
Okay, Hank, that's a fantastic question, and the answer is you don't know. You can be on set. You don't. You really don't, because when the casting director calls you, they say, here's the time you're supposed to be there, but they don't say, here's the time when you're going to leave. You can be on a set anywhere from 2 hours to 16 hours. Did you hear what I said? 2 hours to 16 hours or longer. It's true. So when you accept that job from the casting director, yes, I will be a background actor, you put in your brain, okay, I can be there from 2 to 16 hours or longer. So I need to clear my calendar, because you can't say in the middle of the day, well, I want to leave now, I've been here 6 hours. No, you can't do that. You got to be there the whole time you commit. Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Let me try to squeeze in one more here. This is from Ginny in Nashville. Do I have to bring my own wardrobe, or will it be given to me?
That depends on what the casting director tells you. As Aaron mentioned earlier, you will be told what to bring or what not to bring. For period pieces, which are generally historical shows, they're going to dress you into certain costumes. If it's not necessarily a period piece, they will say to you, bring XYZ outfits, do not bring XYZ colors. And when they say don't bring XYZ colors, don't bring XYZ colors. And when they say bring XYZ colors, take those colors, because that's what the director needs to create the vision of the scene that you are shooting. So yeah, it goes both ways.
Actually, I'm going to be able to get one more, and this is great.
Okay.
This is from Lindy in Wisconsin, and she is asking, is it okay to ask for autographs or take pictures on the set?
No. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be...
I'm sorry, what was the answer to that one?
No. Absolutely do not ever, no photographs, no autographs. It is so unprofessional. You will look like an absolute unprofessional person, for lack of a better term. You never do that. And here's what you need to remember. You ask for a photograph, you are holding up production. You are very important to the scene, but you are not so important to the scene that you can hold up production. You ask for autographs, photographs, you are stopping production. And I cannot tell you the stories I have heard and many I've witnessed about people who have asked for autographs and been kicked off sets. Casting directors have been called immediately and have said, do not ever allow that person to come and work for us anymore. No. So, absolutely. Let me say this. Can I get autographs or photographs or famous people on set? No. Can we all repeat that, please?
And the other thing
Thank
too
you.
is, I mean, along with all of that, you know, sometimes depending on the scene, the situation, an actor might be very involved in getting prepared to do a
Mm-hmm.
scene.
Sure.
And if people are walking over, it's not to say that
Ah,
they're any more important than anybody else, but they might be in preparation of doing a scene. And when you start talking to the actor, and oh, I love those other movies you did, and I'd love to get, well, now you're breaking the actor's
mm-hmm.
concentration and you're not
Mm-hmm.
allowing him or her to do their job the way they need to. It's one thing if they volunteer it, if they walk over, hey, anybody want to take, well, I guess that's one thing.
Yep.
But I agree with you wholeheartedly. And the other thing too is there are some potential copyright issues.
Oh,
If you're taking photographs and there are certain scenes, there's certain settings, they're giving away some information about a project because you're shooting things, that can be a problem as well. So, yeah, I mean, it should be made very clear to everybody working on the set, no pictures and no autographs. Hey, Gil, I'm going to have to wind things up, but one thing that I wanted to do is I want people to be able to get a hold of you if they want to read more about your classes, about your books, about, projects that you are producing. What is the best way for them to reach you?
my website, which is my name and the word book. So it's www.gail, GAILNEMECBOOKS.com, Gail Nemec Books. And you'll see across on the bar at the top, you'll see the books, you'll see more about me, you'll see the background acting classes when they're offered, and we have some coming up very shortly here. So always check the website, Gail Nemec Books, for the classes that I'm teaching, and when the background classes are, you'll be able to register there or give me a call and we can go from there. And I also teach the class one-on-one.
Fantastic. Gail, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank
And
you.
if and for the other questions that I simply couldn't get to, I will be sticking around as late as I need to answer all the questions. Feel free. You can send in some more questions if you would like. And we're going to take a couple minute break, and then we'll be right back. Gail, thank you again.
Thank you.